Next up, we're going to be working on the back control arms. We have top and bottom ones as well. The bigger ones are on the bottom. Okay, we're at pinion, and it looks like we're about negative 10 degrees. And our goal is to make it even. Looks like we're at 15. So ultimately what we want to do is to rotate this axle clockwise 5 degrees. That's our goal. Also, another important thing is you want your wheel to be right in the center of your wheel well. These wheels are pretty damn close. We may end up pushing it back maybe a quarter of an inch. Maybe. We'll have to see once we get the angle of the axle where we want it. And then we'll worry about that other distance second, I think. Another very important thing to take into consideration if you're going to move your axle back, which we are, but very little, you have to make sure that it's not going to come into contact with your fuel tank. So we have probably 1.5 inches, 2 inches to spare, maybe somewhere around there. So we, at most, will probably come back a 1/2 inch, if that. But depending on what your situation is, it's something you definitely need to look at. Okay, we're measuring from the front of the axle to this point right here. And on the driver's side, we got 97 centimeters. On this side we're pretty close to 97 centimeters and right around 38 inches. These bolts are 21 millimeter. They come out okay. He's had them off before because he's done the bushings, which we do not recommend. If you ever have to change bushings, just change the whole control arm. But you know, they're a bitch to come out, but they do come out. Also, it's important that you put some kind of a jack or a prop underneath here under the axle someplace, because once these come off, it's going to rotate. Potentially could rotate, depends on where the pressure's at. So it's important. So we're going to go ahead and pull this apart and put the new one on.
15 3/4 center to center.
15 3/4, and we're going to probably make our new ones probably about 16.5, somewhere around there. Okay, we went ahead and went with 16.5 for the measurement on these, and we thought of a interesting way to make sure they're both the same. Go ahead. Use the bolts that came off of one of the control arms and just stack them. They should just slide right together. That's way you know they're the same.
Good starting point.
Okay, we're using the jack pipe method that we used in the front end of these videos. So basically we just take a pipe and push on the axle with a jack, and as long as you support it evenly and are careful, you can move the axle back and make it so the new length fits into the hole. And as you can see, hopefully,
it works.
a little bit more.
Up.
Bingo. Okay, so there's a brake line that's attached to the driver's side control arm, and it's a 13 millimeter bolt. Also, the bolts on the upper control arm are 15s, just like the front. So those are going to need to be removed. They come off pretty easy, I guess. Okay, so we're using the scissor jack to lift up the rear differential because there's a lot of tension on the upper control arm. We do not recommend lifting it from any of the moving parts. Lift it from the solid, non-movable parts so you don't damage anything. As you lift it, you should see the tension being relieved, so it would be good if you had two people to help do this. So let me help. We've run into a little snag here. The bolt on the passenger side rear upper control arm is right up against the exhaust. We released the bolt that's way back on the back of the gas tank back there, and it moves around a little bit. We think maybe if we get the tension off that bolt, maybe we can get it out of there. We're gonna try and release the rear bolt on this control arm first. That bolt right there, and see if that gives us enough, releases the tension on this bolt enough so it pulls out. Take off the exhaust. This bracket here looks like two 13mm bolts. You need that to remove. Drops down the exhaust so you can get to that bolt. Okay, so this bolt is very difficult to get in between the muffler. We actually had to use a ratchet strap, which is here. That ratchet strap was able to pull that muffler over enough to get the bolt in. And keep in mind to make sure you go above the axle. You don't want to go around it. Alright, we're trying to get the angle right on this. Looks like we're at 20 degrees here. And on this part, we're closer to 14. So I gotta get them to word or within a degree. Yep. Okay, it's kind of a pain, but basically, you're trying to get the angles to match from there to there, and you want it to look like the axle's going straight into the rear differential. You know, you don't want this U-joint to be flexed vertically. That's the goal. So we've done that. We use a jack. It's kind of a pain in the ass because there's nothing flat to jack up on. So you got to be real careful when you're doing this, but it eventually goes in. It eventually goes to the position you want. You just got to be real careful. So once you get that done, you come over here and you rotate this out until this bolt slides right in. When it slides right in, you know you have no tension and this is adjusted correctly. And later you're gonna tighten that nut down, and then it uses this funky little nut thing to go on there. So this side we put this in second because it was easier to get to, but the other side we're putting the upper one in second because of the exhaust, how hard it is to get to. I can't, yeah, right there. So it's so hard to get to that, it's not realistic to adjust that one. So we're adjusting it from the other side. So anyway, we're going to get that done, and I'll let you know how it goes. Okay, so we went ahead and finished putting up the rear upper control arms, and then we proceeded to start torquing everything down. Here's the page that has the torque measurements. It was 55 for some of the uppers, some were 80, but they're listed right here, so you can just read them. Okay, so we got the everything back together, and there's really not much difference as far as the distance goes. It was probably maybe an inch moved it back maybe an inch, but that's pretty much it. Just put it back to closer to where it was when it came out of the factory, because the suspension lift actually pulls in the wheels, so you're basically just fixing what the lift did. One thing I didn't note earlier, but the exhaust on this vehicle wasn't factory, so all the issues we had with that bolt getting to the exhaust may have just been because this exhaust was an aftermarket exhaust. The original one, may not be in the way of that bolt. So, also something to note, we didn't do any drilling. The instructions that are on the company's website say stuff about drilling, and we even bought a drill bit thinking we might have to drill something out. But we didn't. So maybe on yours you might have to, but we didn't have to. So Good luck if you try this project. It wasn't too bad. It took us about a day stopping for lunch, recording video, and whatnot. So, hope you like the video.